On July 9th, the University of California released reports on the campus climate for both Jewish and Muslim and Arab students. The report on Jewish students has attracted far more attention, particularly for its recommendation that campuses prohibit, quote, hate speech. Included under that rubric is speech that is, quote, anti-Semitic under a controversial European Union definition of that word. Critics are worried that the report's recommendations, if adopted, would lead to a clampdown on speech in solidarity with Palestinians.
So I participated in one of the meetings that led to the creation of the report, and I also spoke on a panel of Jewish students that addressed President Yudof's Campus Climate Advisory Council the day that the report was released. What I found when reading the report was some attempt to discuss issues of access and accommodation for Jewish students on campus, which I think we can all agree are important issues that need to be addressed. However, the bulk of the report seemed to be dedicated to painting a negative picture of Students for Justice in Palestine and similar groups.
I didn't really know what to make of it, but I did know that it didn't accurately reflect my experience as a Jewish student. And I do know that the recommendations are problematic, at best. Manipulative and a wolf in sheep's clothing at worst.
So we've been incredibly concerned about the campus climate efforts and advocacy that have been pushed forward by groups like the Anti-Defamation League as well as President Yudof's office, because we see them as a response to Palestine solidarity work. It's incredibly troubling that President Yudof, when talking about campus climate issues, will equate things like nooses found on campus to checkpoints that are mock, that are intended to critique a state policy on the part of apartheid Israel. And so to see those types of things grouped together is frightening for us as advocates, and I think raises a lot of concerns about the way in which Palestine solidarity work is being classified as racist.
And they said, for example, the use of the word ethnic cleansing, accusations that Israel practices apartheid when we know there are settlements which are only for Jews in the West Bank, which have separate infrastructure, which have separate voting rights, which have separate citizen rights, built on land confiscated from Palestinians in which Palestinians are not allowed to live. You don't have to agree with it, but I think you at least have to accept the idea that some people are willing to call that system of segregation apartheid.
I think when we're looking at the Jewish Campus Climate Report, we have to understand it within its proper context. This was in response to UC Berkeley divestment. This was in response to the Irvine 11, who was challenging Israeli ambassador and chief propagandist Michael Oren. There are already people who are afraid to organize. There are already people who are afraid to speak out. So when you say anti-Israel, anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism all within the same statement, the idea is to create a culture of fear. So the next person doesn't join an SJP. The next person doesn't come to an SJP event.
SJPs don't just engage in criticism of Israel as their only thing that they do. Another aspect of it is Palestinian students who celebrate their own culture and history. And all of that, all of the good aspects of that are somewhat separate in a way from specific criticisms of Israeli policy, all those things are also being lumped in as part of the speech that they want to ban. So if you imagine yourself in the shoes of a Palestinian student, there's no distinction between you talking about your culture and you being lumped in with hate speech.
And although they say there's a routine use of swastikas protests, I think we're actually very careful. Most UC campuses I know that there isn't a routine use of swastikas to denounce Israeli policy. I think people are usually careful about using this symbol. And I also think the sensitivity to the use of the symbol is very skewed, because it's very commonplace to accuse pro-Palestine students of being Nazis. That's something we do here all the time, or I've heard all the time certainly.
Obviously, as people of color, we don't support white supremacy or Nazism. I don't know why anybody would think we would. I don't know why anybody in the right minds would do that. Regardless of what color you are. I don't know. It was infuriating to see that after 4 years of my friends and I working in this organization, putting in really hard work, really long hours, to just get
I don't know. I don't want to say kick in the nuts, but yeah, it's a cheap shot.
We're already preconceived to be angry, angry Arabs, angry terrorists, angry violent people, and so we always have to be nice and smiley and, happy and patient when it comes to this. And so if we get angry, if we get impassioned, it's like automatically we're playing to the stereotype. That's what's expecting. That's what's expected of us.
I mean, is the existence of Palestinians, is the existence of Palestinian history, is that a cause for unease for students? And if so, should a climate report be reaffirming that and trying to bolster that and trying to take action to reaffirm those bigoted viewpoints?
There's also a lot of language in the report that really marginalized Jewish students who are critical of Israel. Shani and I both gave the climate report authors articles we've written about how the current Department of Education Title VI investigation into UC Santa Cruz that alleges anti-Semitism is actually being used to sort of stifle Palestinian-related speech on campus. Despite this, the authors of the report claim that no such confusion about free speech rights and allegations of anti-Semitism was brought up in any of the meetings.
I think the whole problem that I have with the report and the meeting and the investigation and this whole thing is the lack of transparency. No one is being upfront about how this is all happening.